how would you
Like,
explain?
it's more of an aggressive kind of
Yeah.
stance, like that you're going to go
Aggressive
after
body
somebody, but you're not actually touching them
language.
at that point.
Mm.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Like scared.
yeah, like
Intimidate them?
Yeah.
intimidating body movements and
Mhm.
body behavior. So for a measurable goal, for an annual measurable goal, Mario will reduce tantrums to 1 for every 7 school days in all subject areas. So we're gonna hold them accountable. It's like not just language arts, it's all day for every subject. And that's what we're gonna be working on. So Mario will also reduce verbal insults to other students and teachers 1 time for every 10 days. Now, obviously, we want it to be 0. However, at 0 at this point would not be an appropriate goal.
That's a 7 for failure.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still gonna have consequences. He doesn't, just because he did it 1 in 10, and that was his goal, doesn't mean that he's out of consequences. But what it means is that we're showing improvement.
What happens if he goes over his
Um,
goal?
And that's the thing, is this is something we're trying to reach by the end of the year, the
So
end of
it's
the
not
IEP
like-
year. This is what we're headed towards, and so to get there, we're gonna, self-determination activities. He's going to probably annotate his own behavior. And this is some of the things, some of this, to document some of his behavior. And those are things that we're gonna be working on for ACE activity with ACE instructor.
And if there's ever not progress, we can always reconvene as an IEP team and discuss what is happening and make changes
Yep.
that are appropriate
That are
for him.
appropriate.
Okay.
So that's just where we're headed, that's where we'd like to see, and eventually, obviously, get it down to 0. But like you said, that's just setting them up for failure if you expect the moon. Okay, so for data to support this progress, or to support progress, Mario has 16 disciplinary actions that resulted in 10 lunch detentions, 6 days of in-school suspension, 6 office referrals, 5 and a 5-day expulsion. Again, this is hard to read as parents because it sounds like we're just saying your kid is a bad kid, but this is data that documents, that we've documented, that solidifies, or it, well, I guess supports is what I'm looking for, supports where his baseline is.
But this is over time. It just makes it seem like this is
Right.
all one day.
And those are all things that we have to document, because this is a binding legal document, this IEP. And so to have that in place says where we started from and where we're headed, and that we're not just making these numbers up. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
We can't just say, oh, it was 2 out of 5 times off the cuff. It has to be collected and documented.
And then you can see what his progress is over the next,
Right.
over this new annual IEP.
And that's part of his progress monitoring as well. So a paraprofessional was assigned to Mario, and he was tasked with documenting his behavior using a behavior observation spreadsheet. He documented 24 occurrences insulting other students and teachers in a 40-day period, in 40 days of class. He also documented 16 tantrums throughout the 40-day period, which you can see goes with the ratios that we said earlier. So Mario has improved his behavior from the beginning of the school year. He did not meet his behavioral goals for reducing outbursts to 1 out of 5 days for language arts and 1 out of 10 for his reading intervention class, but he did show progress. He also reduces his verbal attacks from an everyday occurrence to 3, or I believe 2 out of 5. I need to fix that again. So 2 out of 5 days. He also has not demonstrated any physical attacks on people or property in the last 2 months. His disciplinary actions are down 30% from the same time period the year before. So you can see that there is improvement. So even though it sounds like we're, saying all the negative, you can see that there has been improvement.
So some accommodations for him. When possible, for him to utilize group activities and role playing to reinforce positive behavior. And he can do this within the ACE room. He could do this working with a social worker. They do a lot of group activities and
Is
do
this the
role
same
playing.
social worker or different social worker?
He works with the same social worker. So they have an established relationship and they know kind of specifically what
He
things
trusts
he's working on.
his social worker, and
Get along all right?
Mhm.
oh yeah, they have a really good relationship, and Mrs. Brown does awesome with him. And you can see that you know, I've never heard a complaint about their time from him. A lot of their stuff is, you know, it's confidential, their conversations, some of it. But from what I'm told from both parties, that they have a pretty strong relationship compared to some of the relationships that Mario has with other adults in the classroom, in the building, so.
Also, whenever possible, for him to get immediate positive reinforcement for his behavior. Provide a well-structured learning environment, which consists of classroom procedures. So again, that structure for him. Mario will be assigned a paraprofessional to monitor monitor the progress of his behavior, and to help redirect his behavior towards productive and beneficial behavior. Okay. So for his special education services, excuse me, it is determination of our team that in addition to regular classroom, Mario will receive intensive one-on-one behavior replacement instruction from the special education teacher.
That's me.
And will receive the additional instruction 5 times per week for 15 minutes per session, for a total of 75 minutes per week. The special education teacher will collaborate with the social worker assigned to Mario to best plan and implement strategies.
And how
And some
are
are-
you with Mario? With you guys?
What?
Is it good? Like,
Oh,
with Mario?
yeah, I think so. I mean, occasionally we have to, I have to, you know, discipline them, but that's part of my job.
Is it more with
Female?
women teachers or men, or is it just the same with everyone?
I think it depends on the expectations at the moment.
So just the
because I think-
situation that he's in?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And especially if it has to do with difficult reading tasks, if those are posed to him, I think I don't think it really matters if it's a male or female teacher.
No, in the past, the data that we've collected that eventually led to all of us as a team identifying him with an emotional disability, it showed that it wasn't just in the classroom. You know, it wasn't just a female teacher, it wasn't just the school, it was also outside of school, you know, and some of the things that he ran into trouble with the law, vandalism and stuff like that. And so the data showed that it was really just, he was having that difficulty everywhere, not just in the classroom. And not just with a female teacher or with a male teacher.
It's more authority figure.
Authority figure, yep, adult figure.
And I know when we're out in the shop, when we're together, things are okay, but when I tell him to clean his room, that's when he gets mouthy and stuff escalates, so.
And I think that's one of those things, again, like what's, you know, the consequence, you know, if he's being mouthy, or as you say, mouthy, or having discipline issues in the shop, what are you gonna do? You're probably gonna kick him out of the shop. You know, and that's somewhere he's motivated to be, that's a consequence that means something to him. We're in the room, his consequence, if, you know, I don't know how you guys, what you choose to do at home. We can never say that we don't support corporal punishment. And if that,
He gets the belt.
and if he
Yeah.
does, you know, and you gotta be careful
It's
there.
bad enough.
There's careful there, because, you know, there's a line between, we don't support corporal punishment as a school district.
Wish you did. I'm sure you
But
wish
you-
I'm sure you
but
wish
if you
you
think
did a couple
about-
times too.
But if you think about the situations, has corporal punishment changed his behavior? Does that consequence mean enough to him that he will change his
Well, mine's
mouthiness
dad.
until he cleans his room? Until he's told to clean his room? What's the consequence if he doesn't clean his room and he gets mouthy with you?
Take his phone away
Well, and does that work?
for a while.
Good. For a while. That's better than some of the
Yeah.
things that we deal with.
Yeah.
But the difference is if you take the belt to him, as you'd say, is he, the next time up in his room, is that a consequence? Is it fixing the situation? Does he clean his room with respect every single time? And so that's the things that maybe we should talk with the social work too. Is what are some of the behaviors that he's doing at home? And what are some things that we can do differently to create a consequence that's gonna be meaningful to him? Is it taking away his phone? Is it, sorry, you're not allowed to work in the shop this week? So those things that matter to him, those are gonna be the thing. Cause your kid's tough. He's some thick skin, he's tough, like he's bullheaded, he is not a beaten, as you'd say, or belting, it's not gonna, that's instant consequence, but yet, he's pretty tough and he just moves on with his life. He can live with it, you know, he's one of those kids. So is that the best consequence? And that's something that you guys should consider, maybe talking with our social workers, so that.
I
you
feel
guys
like
can-
if we didn't let him be in the shop, then he's gonna be out on the streets getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. And again, you know, that's something that we could talk about.
And you can also work with him maybe on some rewards, so maybe if he's not spending as much time in the shop as he'd want to, so if we're seeing progress here and you're getting good reports here at school, and you're seeing changes at home, you can say, well, we're gonna give you some extra time doing this in the shop, and give him some rewards in that aspect too, because it is something that's so meaningful and important to him, that if he can get more access to that, then he's more likely to, maybe if you say, if you clean your room each time I ask you, and keep track of that with him somehow at home, then that might be more motivating for him.
And then the other side of that, we talked about sports earlier. You keep him busy, he's not running around in the streets causing havoc. If he's, you know, if he is an energetic boy, he's strong, he's athletic, and if he will exercise some way, whether that is in a positive way or a negative way, you know, that's for what, you know, decides after school. Is he gonna go to sports, or is he gonna go run around town, you know, and vandalize cars like he did a couple years ago? And so those are the kind of things, what activities do you want? He's gonna participate in activities, regardless, because he's a busy kid. He will run around and there's no way you're gonna slow him down. However, what kind of activities do you want him participating in? Positive, or the ones he's choosing for himself, you know, and so those are some of the things that you need to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, where did I leave off?
So he'll speak with a social worker for 30 minutes twice a week for a total of 60 minutes to discuss and implement replacement behaviors for emotional outbursts and treatment of his peers and teachers. So they'll actually kind of have some strategies to work on for that. And then Mario and the social worker will also work on impulse control.
So is there anything you guys would like to add to that, would you'd like to work with the social worker? You know, we've talked about discipline and
Well, it sounds like you guys have it all covered. I can't think of anything.
I don't know, maybe could we talk to the social worker
Mhm.
about home?
Definitely.
yeah,
Yes.
I think that would be a good conversation to have, and so that you guys can get on the same
Because
page.
we're just about done. I mean, we tried everything and it's just kind of,
Exhausting.
Well, we
Yeah.
just know how we were raised in.
well, it's the things that we did too.
Yeah.
And trying to get him to graduate and do good for himself, but
I think the more communication you have between the
Yeah.
school and home is a great idea, because then it can be a unified front, and then he's not trying to see where he can find, where he can get
Right.
good things.
And he's not gonna try to play, see, and some of his thing is, yeah, and he tries to play the school against, you know, that's why he's going home.
He's smart.
Mhm.
Oh, he is. Like you said, in a kind of a non-traditional way earlier, he is. He tries to play the school against, you know, if he's in trouble, he says, or if he's failing, he says, the school hates me, it's because of them. Where, you know, like Miss Fraser said, if we're all in a united front and we stand together kind of thing, and we're all on the same
I
page.
just want him to know that we don't want him to rebel against us and not trust us at home.
Right? And so maybe we should, with that social worker, talk about some of these resistant behaviors, resisting authority and resisting parents and stuff like that. Would
Maybe
you-
communication,
Communication.
and for
how to
strategies for him to
communicate
communicate.
Yeah,
Yes.
would you guys like to address that? Okay. Okay, so I think we're kind of towards the end of this IEP meeting. Are we all in agreement with Mario's goals, accommodations, and related services? Related services were we talked about with the social work stuff that we talked about.
Yeah.
yeah, no questions here.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments anyone would like to make before we conclude Mario's IEP?
Well, I'm just glad that you guys are working with him and trying to get him better in reading and,
Just giving him a chance.
yeah, like we said, I mean, he'll probably just end up in the shop,
I don't
working
know.
with me and taking over the business and,
No, there's nothing wrong with
but
that.
we'd still like to see him get a degree just in case he doesn't wanna end up doing auto mechanic stuff and he has a couple options.
I want him to have a better life than we had.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, or maybe not worst case scenario, but in that situation, obviously our goal is to get him to graduate school, and he has till he's 21 to do so, if that's what it takes. But regardless of academic performance, you talk about reading, no matter if he goes to college or not, he's going to need to develop relationships, you know, having strong interpersonal relationships between other people in his community, you know, whether he has a customer, his parents or his coworkers or his employees, wherever he sits, those things are important. So those are the things we're really trying to focus on, if that makes any sense to you. So. Okay, I'd also like to add Mario will be turning 14 during his next annual IEP. And at that time, I think it's important that we invite a transition specialist, and we talked about some of the things that he's interested in tonight. Transition specialist into our meeting.
It's a transition special.
So a transition specialist is someone that comes into the meeting, and their job is to start planning for Mario's post-secondary life. So what's he gonna do for a career, basically, outside.
When he's 14?
That's when we start talking about it. Because, you mean, you gotta think about high school, you know, if you start thinking at the next year, he's a 7th grader now, and then next year he'll be 14 as an 8th grader, and then as a freshman, he's going to be taking classes, you know, and some of those classes that he needs to take are probably gonna be oriented towards whatever career or field that he's interested in. And so we wanna know those things, and we wanna go into high school with a plan, and so that he's not taking classes that aren't going to benefit where he wants to end up. And so if he wants to end up in auto mechanics of some sort, that obviously is one of his interests, we're gonna try to get him into the intro to automotive classes and the welding classes, and those things that orient towards his future goals in career, if that makes any sense. And so you gotta think, 14 next year, 15, those are the things that he's gonna be on track to do. And so if he wants to be a chef, you know, when he grows up, and so we start talking about what can we do in the high school that's gonna benefit you as an adult, and that starts with the classes that he chooses to take. So we'll invite the transition specialist into the meeting to prepare for his post-secondary life. At this time, it is important to start thinking about Mario's future, like I said. And I feel it's appropriate at that time for his next annual IEP that we invite Mario to the meeting, so he becomes more of an active role in his decisions going on in his life, so he can be a little more self-determined, if you will.
And it's gonna go the same way as it did tonight?
Well, that kind of depends on where we are for a year from now. And we can have that meeting, we might have, you know, another meeting if he meets his goals, or he's not meeting his goals, he's not making adequate growth. And we can call up call another IEP. Anybody can suggest another IEP for any of these reasons. And we can reassess or readdress some of his accommodations or services or his goals. How it's gonna go in a year from now, I don't know. We'll see. We're just gonna keep working on the things that we talked about tonight, unless you guys have any disagreements about the accommodations and services and where we want to be within the next annual measurable IEP year. So, any comments?
Sounds good to me.
Well, just talk to that social worker and try and do our part at home.
Good. So, any comments from you? Okay, so to conclude this meeting, this is the conclusion of the IEP meeting, annual IEP meeting for Mario. Brady and Kinsey, would you like to stay and wait for the copy of this archive meeting, or would you just like us to email it to you?
You can email it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for coming.
It's me, Mario.